Dave, it looked a difficult day's training out there, battling against the elements. How have preparations gone this week?
Preparation's gone really well. We've trained really well Tuesday, Wednesday. Obviously today was more or less a write-off. I've never experienced winning like that since we've been here, or probably since I've been managing. I've managed at some windy places, but we got out of the day what we needed to. We back up our prep outside with what we do inside, so nothing new there really, and looking forward to the game.
There's so much to like about last week's win at Reading. What, I suppose, is the key now to getting the performances and the results on a consistent basis now going forward?
I think our performances have been pretty consistent. Sometimes within football matches, the results are inconsistent due to an element or a moment of those performances. And like I say, we went into the Reading game last week, in my eyes, in decent form. Form, in my opinion, might be different to what form a supporter sees, having not won games over the Christmas period, but our performances were really good. Do we have to be more clinical? Yeah, were we more clinical against Reading? Potentially, but we could have scored more than what we did. So I think there are bits that you need to get right, and apart from a few games that I can recall, I think we've been pretty steady over the course of the season. Should we be on more points than what we are? Statistically, data would tell you, yeah, we should be. But it means nothing. We are where we are. We're in a good place with 20 games to go. And we know what it needs to take, or what it should or has historically taken in order to finish in those playoff positions. We're still, let's say, away from that with, well, like I say, 20 games to go. At least half of them, and probably a little bit more, need to be wins, which is, again, a tough ask in itself, but that's where our objective is. That's where our motivation comes, and hopefully that'll be the case.
Just wanted to ask you about the performances of Carl Wootton lately. Obviously on a bit of a run without a goal himself, but another assist last weekend. He started at almost all of your league games this season. How important is he to you and your team?
Yeah, he's been massively important, and I get there'll be a desire, and there's a desire from us that forward players and players at the top end of the pitch are the ones that get you goals, and ideally that would be the case, but there's far more to football matches and what players bring than just that. And if that was the case and you just judge something really simply, whether it be on goals scored or goals against, then there'd be a lot of changes every week or week in, week out around how football teams looks. What's been a focal point in terms of what we've done. And again, look back a little bit, I don't think Louis gets half of his goals if Woods is not there, sort of taking the batterings and allowing the ball to drop to Louis in open spaces. So again, he has started a lot of games. We have to make sure that we don't batter him in terms of what that looks like. It's difficult at the moment because we've really got the two forwards, and those two will be pivotal for us. Remains to be seen whether we can get some help in this window. But at the moment, those two, and listen, Woods is the type of person that he had an injury last season, but normally he's robust because he looks after himself and does things properly. And if you're looking at one player in our squad that I was going to hang my hat on playing 50 games a season, it would be him. So I hope I'm not sort of causing some bad luck or something along the way, because I think I said something not too dissimilar a while ago when he got injured at Gillingham when we were back in League Two. So he is important for us, and hopefully he'll remain that. From my perspective, him want to add goals, yeah, but that's more just for the fact that with the work he does, he deserves the goals. And if he keeps putting himself in the right place, then goals will come.
There has been activity in the transfer market this week. We'll start with the players that have gone out. Tails recall obviously announced, and Luis Fiorini going to Dundee. That's 6 outgoings now. Was it always the case that players were probably going to have to leave this transfer window in order to be able to bring others in?
Yeah. The squad was heavy, but the squad had to be heavy due to the situation we found ourselves at the start of the season with the injuries we had. So that was always going to be the case, and budget-wise, that has to be the case. but also from a football perspective, that has to be the case because I suppose what we want to try and do, I suppose similar to sort of Mike coming here really, we've brought players in and some of the things haven't quite worked out, whether it be due to injuries or not playing the games or what it might be. That doesn't mean we give up on what we think they can offer, but it's important this second part of the season that they go and play some games to get in some flow, and we still believe they can have an impact in our squad. So it was important that Lewis went out, the loan players again. There were decisions made at the start of the season. Teo brought in really because we didn't know where Ryan was going to be coming back from obviously 12 months out with a cruciate, and then he picked up another injury. So we needed cover there. As it turns out, Ryan's come back now. There's still, again, decisions made. It might be best for Ryan to go out and play a run of games. But we've got to be selective in what we try and do and where we prioritise on where we need to strengthen in this window, because when it shuts, that's us, that's where we are. We'll have Powley and Jayden probably back March time, but the rest of the squad is what it is till April and hopefully into May.
Your first signing of January is here, Micah joining on loan from Middlesbrough. I believe there was also interest in him in the summer too. What do you like about him?
Yeah, he was a player, I wouldn't say there was a player that was spoken about in the summer, but us taking a player from Manchester City, and you look at the transfer fee, he went to Middlesbrough for, was probably not something that would happen. We'd have loved it too, but it wasn't the case. But when we were looking for that profile of player, he was a name that popped up. And if he'd have stayed at Manchester City and come out on loan, then maybe that would have been an option. He's slightly different to what Louis would be, whereas Louis was a winger and probably a centre forward as a second part. Mike is probably more of a winger that could maybe play a little bit deeper in a pocket as a number 10 or a number 8. But he's got quality at the top end of the pitch and will provide us with options to do different jobs. So really looking forward to working with him. He's found it not found it tough. And tough that might dent him over the last 6 months. But when you move from a Manchester City where you have been for a long time out of the Premier League and playing in Europe to the Championship and what that brings, and to Middlesbrough and a different way of life and living up there and living on your own for the first time, that can be difficult. We found it with players that we brought here that are older than what Micah is. So he just needs a platform to go and perform. This platform is lower in standard than he's previously been trialled and tested at. So we hope that he can hit the ground running and have a big impact.
I guess that comparison is maybe unfair, but also inevitable with Louis, and you must hope that you can go on and have that same impact that you had on Louis in terms of, as you say, giving him that platform to go and express himself.
Yeah, of course. They're different. Like I say, they are different in terms of what their super strengths might be at the moment in terms of players, but what they are is both creative players. And what Louis did in the time he was here was add numbers to that creation. If Mike can do that, then it will, from our perspective, will benefit. From Middlesbrough's perspective, they'll benefit because he'll stick his head above the parapet and show what he can do. We all hope that's the case.
Will he be available for Saturday?
Yes, he will. Yeah.
Speaking of availability, I know there was frustration with the nature of Tanto's injury last weekend. Is that likely to keep him out for Saturday?
No, he'll be available.
And Lewis Bate as well? Yeah,
Lewis, I know he'd said that the other day he's fine, he's been back training. Would I be thinking about starting him and chucking him straight back in? No, but could he have an impact from the bench? Yeah, and I don't think he's too far off. As with anyone coming back from an injury, you want to try and have almost scheduled minutes for them. But if we need him from the bench, we think he can have an impact. So yeah, as things stand now, I would hope he'd be involved.
It is back-to-back home games now, both against sides currently in the relegation zone. That'll bring its own challenges, of course, but you must see this as a real opportunity now to consolidate that playoff spot that you've got.
Yeah, I see every game as an opportunity. I saw Reading away last week as an opportunity. So just because we're playing at home against two teams that are in the bottom four doesn't make it more of an opportunity in my eyes. It will be a different game. They will be different games, different challenges, potentially different objectives that the opposition might bring and what they want to try and get from the game and how they go about it. So one thing's for certain, it's very easy that expectation becomes entitlement, and that happens too quickly in football, just because we've gone and, whether it be drew at home against Birmingham and done really, really well and gone to Reading and beat them, doesn't give you any divine right to go and win the next game of football. You've got to make sure you produce and adapt and do what it takes. We know that historically, and with the experience we've got over the first part of the season, if we can match the levels that we produced last Saturday, and it might take something different than what we did, but if we do that, then we have a more than equal chance of winning. But if we don't, we know that anything can happen in this league. We've seen that previously. The league, in my opinion, is really, really tight from top to bottom in terms of quality. It would be quite easy for me to point out that Shrewsbury has beaten Wrexham and Birmingham in the last month or 6 weeks, but that doesn't make any difference. It's about what happens on the night, and tomorrow for us against Crawley, it's what happens on the day. We've got to make sure that we produce, and hopefully our supporters will understand that and will give us a real atmosphere to be able to go and produce another good performance.
And in terms of the threat that Crawley do pose, obviously a new manager in Rob Elliott, but very much the same approach, isn't it? You know that they'll come on Saturday and try and play. Yeah,
it's slightly different. Obviously, I know Rob and I know Sweens really, really well. Slightly different, more of a goal threat than they were under Scott. And although they'll try and be possession based, they're a little bit more purposeful with what they do. But they will be open, will be expansive, if they're what they normally are. But you look at when we went there earlier on in the season, notoriously they were man for man all over the pitch. They didn't play man for man against us, they played with a +1 at the back. So we'll have to expect anything and have to adapt to what's in front of us in order to try and get 3 points.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you.
Welcome. Cheers. Thank you.